Canucks have 2 points on this homestand so far, but no wins yet. This is the 4th of 6, and they'll try to break through here against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Starting goalies brought to you by Tim Hortons, official coffee of the NHL. The last time Sergei Bobrovsky faced the Canucks, he got a shutout and still lost. Max Lapierre scored the only goal of a shootout in a 1-0 Vancouver win last spring. And Roberto Luongo didn't lead the Canucks out like he normally does. He eventually made it out at the end of the line, and he takes position down to our right as he starts for the 10th time in 11 games. Daniel Sedin probably thought he'd be at the 300 goal mark or more by now, but he remains too shy as he's enduring a bit of a slump. And Jack Johnson leading the Blue Jackets in average ice time. He may see even more tonight in the absence of James Wisniewski, who's out of the lineup with illness. Underway with Mike Santorelli starting this game, flanked by Daniel Sedin and Ryan Kesler. Santorelli had the puck at center for a moment, but now it's Ryan Johansson tipping it into the Canucks end. Johansson, who had a starring role in the Blue Jackets win over the Canucks last month in Columbus, couldn't hold the puck in, and here's Daniel Sedin at center. He and Tanev got their singles crossed a bit. Daniel stood up and knocked to the ice as he dumped the puck in. Blue Jackets working to the side, and here comes Nick Foligno. He flips the puck forward and starts a full change for the Blue Jackets. Canucks changing as well as Henrik Sedin comes onto the ice with his new line mates, Chris Higgins and Jannik Hansen. Canucks have been 12-0-2 in 14 games against the Blue Jackets before losing that one last month.
Well, that game was 1-1 with 8 minutes left. Ended up being 3-1 with an empty netter.
Hansen with a centering pass for Higgins. That's broken up. Puck cleared to center. Picked up and tipped in by Boone Jenner. He moves in on Jason Garrison. Puck is center for Atkinson. He couldn't pull the trigger. And the Canucks slide the puck ahead to Chris Higgins. Through center on the left wing. Higgins tried to drag move and a wrist shot. That was blocked. Now he sends the puck around to the far side. Garrison aggressively pinching. Puck is past him and out. Higgins takes a pass, moves back in. Just onside where his teammates exiting the zone. Edler dumps the puck around. Canucks changing with the puck in Columbus territory. Brad Richardson out with his line mates, Zach Kassian and Alex Burrows as Edler at the left point. Passes down and around to the other side for Kevin Bieksa. Edler's heading to the bench now as Bieksa holds the puck in. Richardson from behind the net. Brad Richardson works his way to the far side. Now back to the blue line. Richardson dumps one to the near corner. Kassian goes after the puck. It was the overtime hero in Calgary the other night. Can't get the puck out. Burrows has it on the left wing. Behind the net for Kassian. Zach Kassian turning on the forehand. Puck knocked away from him before he can make a play. And Blake Como gets it over the head of Stanton and out to center. Blue Jackets will try to get their change in now as Burrows steps around Como and moves in on the left wing. Burrows, wrist shot blocked. And that felled Nikitin, who's slow to get to his feet. Stanton down for Burrows. Side of the net. Here's Kassian. Richardson stopped by Bobrovsky. A stick save on a quick one-timer. First shot of the hockey game, but the puck's been at this end of the ice most of the time. Chaput blocks a shot by Zach Kassian, and the Blue Jackets get the puck out. Calvert is around Kassian, in on goal. Calvert to the net, he feeds, and he scores! On the Blue Jackets' first shot of the game, Matt Calvert opens the scoring, and it's 1-0.
Well, the Canucks, who have had the territorial edge, no doubt about that, get caught up ice. Stanton gets trapped in, and Zach Kassian tries to take Calvert at the blue line. Calvert blows right by him, and Roberto Luongo made the original save, and the rebound goes right back to Calvert. I don't know whether it went off his skate or off his stick. The rebound goes right back to him, and he's able to get it into the far side.
Matt Calvert's first game since October the 10th. He's been out since then after surgery. And what a return to the lineup for him. Blue Jackets scored on their first shot last time, John. It was Marian Gaborik on a pinballing puck that beat Eddie Lack. And now they get to the Canucks on the first test in this one.
In 19 games for Calvert.
Here's Weiss in with Welsh. Jeremy Welsh tips the puck in. Now center, Sestito on his own rebound. It's to the goal line and waved off. Sestito celebrating goal, but the referee waves it off. That's Eric Furlat, who was on the goal line, and Sestito thinks he scored.
I don't know whether Eric Furlat will say that he blew the whistle on this one. or whether it didn't go in anyway. A good chance right in front of Bobrovsky, and Tom Sestito's trying to dig at it to get it to go.
Let's give us a better look.
I don't think it completely crossed the line.
It was close, and am I allowed to say we don't have high-def monitors?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Will that message be heard back east? Anyway, from our low-def vantage point, it looked like the puck was not completely over the line.
Tom Sestito digging for it. It's there, and it's sweep, halfway over.
Okay, by the length of the conversation, I'm going to say that the issue isn't that the whistle was blown, it's that he says the puck didn't cross the line, because it would have been a shorter conversation, I think. But let's see what the conversation produced. Here's Eric Furla.
Upon further review, it has been deemed that the puck never crossed the goal line. Therefore, the goal on the ice stands, no goal.
Well, that's a good shift for the fourth line, even though the puck didn't cross the line. Offensive zone chance, 2 real good chances, and Tom Sestito were almost able to score against his old team.
It stays 1-0 Columbus. Calvert with the goal, his first of the season. And Michael Chaput got the only assist for his first career NHL point. Canucks have to like everything about this period so far, the first 3.5 minutes, except for the odd man rush and the goal by Columbus. They'll try to keep doing what they've been doing at the offensive end of the ice. Santorelli ahead to Daniel Sedin. Reaching back neatly was Garrison. Now he backhands the puck deep in the Columbus zone. Bobrovsky out of his net. That hit Daniel Sedin. Scored it in the middle. Santorelli tried to find Daniel to pass, but now the puck is out, and here comes Umberger. Tipping the puck in. Johansson moves in on Edler. Santorelli collects behind his own net. Passes to Garrison, who whips the puck out, and this will be icing against the Canucks for a face-off in the Vancouver zone. Here's Murph.
John, breaking the action, we can say play Safeway's $1 million score and win if any Vancouver player scores 5 goals in tonight's game. Marilyn Gullison of North Vancouver could win $1 million. Shop and swipe at Safeway. You could be our next lucky winner.
Santorelli against McKenzie on the face-off after the icing, and it's McKenzie winning it. Garrison intercepts behind the net. Round for Daniel Sedin, drops for Edler, who is checked, but Kessler follows on. He bobbled the puck, and it stays in the Vancouver zone. Garrison spins to get away from McKenzie. Here's Santorelli. He takes a hit from the test tube. He gets the puck to Garrison, now to Edler. Break wide at center. Kessler tips the puck to Santorelli. Into the middle. Daniel Sedin with a quick shot, gets his own rebound. Daniel again to the crease, and that never got through. Daniel back to Stanton. Long shot. Tipped wide. Kessler from behind the goal. Ryan Kessler turning. Center. Santorelli couldn't get a shot away as he was checked, and the Blue Jackets clear the zone.
Puck was a little behind him, so he had to reach, and he couldn't direct it right on net.
Canucks change. Bieksa tips the puck back in. Savard to the far side for Jenner. Now Anisimov can't get by Chris Higgins. Jenner gets a chance to clear. Can't get it by Bieksa. Long shot blocked. Hustling after the puck is Jannik Hansen. In behind the net for Henrik Sedin. He beats one man. Henrik puts the puck in front. That's intercepted by Anisimov, who headmans to Cam Atkinson. Atkinson risks the puck into the Vancouver zone. Jenner moves it on Stanton and rides him into the end boards. Bieksa tips the puck to the side. Hansen gets it ahead and just outside the line to center. Following up is Stanton. Ahead to Jannik Hansen. Hansen moving in, drops to Bieksa, puts one in front. It goes off of the defenseman Savard. And Bobrovsky had to be sharp on that one with the right pad. Jenner's going to get a penalty here. He just closed his hand on the puck, and there John Garrett will be happy. He was on this one last game, and Jenner will get 2 minutes for closing his hand on the puck.
Penalty 38. Minor penalty for closing his hand on the puck.
I don't think they call this enough. Here's the one that bounces off a skate, and Savard's skate right into Sergei Bobrovsky, quickly reacts. Now he grabs it and then makes a move. Grabs it and then makes a move before he lays it down, and Jenner is in the penalty box. They should call that more often.
First power play for the Canucks. They've outshot the Blue Jackets 3-1, but surrendered the opening goal and the only shot so far for Columbus. Sedin's reunited for the power play up front with Kessler, Bieksa, and Edler are the point men. And Kevin Bieksa has been quietly racking up points of late. He lets go with an early wrist shot, and Kessler might have tipped it. Bobrovsky able to make the save and hang on. Canucks power play brought to you by Subway. Escape the cold with the new Sriracha Steak Melt. Subway, eat fresh.
Power play went 0 for 2 in the last game, but before that had goals in the prior 2 games.
3 times the Canucks this season have scored power play goals in back-to-back games and never stretched it to 3. And I mentioned Bieksa has 5 points in his last 6 games. Edler at the blue line. He risks one on goal. That was blocked. Ryan Murray tips the puck to himself off the sideboards, gets to the puck and shoots it down the ice. Edler starts up. Minute 25 to go in the power play. Puck knocked off his stick and cleared down the ice again by Murray. Here's Henrik Sedin. Ahead to Ryan Kessler. Chips the puck past Tootin and pulled him down, and there'll be a penalty to Kessler. So the power play ends with a minute 10 remaining in the minor penalty to Boone Jenner as Kessler heads to the box.
Ryan Kessler chipped it by Tootin and then reached around with his right hand. And right in front of the referee takes him down. You can see the right hand of Ryan Kessler over the shoulder of Tootin.
Holding call against Kessler. And they'll play 4-on-4 for 70 seconds. Santorelli wins a face-off. Tanev plays the puck around for Dan Hamhuis. Tanev to Mike Santorelli. He rings the puck into the Columbus zone. Higgins out there. Santorelli assisted on the Higgins goal last game, the 7th of the season for Chris Higgins. They can't hold the puck in, and here comes Cam Atkinson. Right up the middle. Wrist shot wide. Tootin's in deep. Hamhuis trying to move the puck past him. Tanev over to help out. Puck comes in front. One-timer. Luongo able to stop it as Atkinson didn't get all of that one. He was wide open, though, and able to lean into it. Just fluttered a bit. Luongo made the save to keep it 1-0.
Buy tickets to any November home game and be automatically entered to win 2 lower bowl tickets to the Canucks Bruins game December 14th, a player signed jersey, and a team signed stick. Plus, the Canucks will donate $5 for each ticket sold to Movember Canada, charity that helps combat prostate cancer and mental health challenges. No mustache necessary. Go to Canucks.com for more information.
Stays 4-on-4 for another 34 seconds, and the Blue Jackets, leading 1-0, will be onto a power play.
2 shots and 2 great scoring chances.
Alex Burrows down the right wing. Throws on the brakes. Burrows take the pass to Garrison. Now he's under pressure. Able to hold the puck in. Still has it. Burrows cutting it on goal. To the net. Couldn't get a shot away. Edler with a shot wide. The 2 Alexes combining there. And I think the puck just went up on end as Edler tried to shoot it. Here's Edler again. Across. Hansen. Slap shot off the blocker of Bobrovsky. And he steers the puck over the glass for a whistle.
Alex Burrows does a great job protecting the puck. Takes it off his skate. Back up to the tape. Wide. Protects it. Leans in. Good quick pivot. Stop. Protect it. Lean in with the shoulder. Could have been a holding call there. No call. Protect it and then go to the front of the net. Loses it, but Alex Edler comes in. And as you said, John, the puck's standing on end. It's off the toe and just goes wide.
Blue Jackets on the power play now for another 40 seconds. And here's Ryan Johansson from Port Moody. Dropping. McKeithen dumps the puck to the other side. It's in behind the Vancouver goal. Johansson moved in and hit Dan Hamhuis, who was able to take the hit to make the play and get the puck out. 20 seconds to go in the Kessler penalty for holding. Blue Jackets up 1-0. Johansson moves in. Leaves for Nikita. Nikita carries in deep. Dumps the puck around for RJ Umberg. He throws one wide of the goal. It comes to Nikita on the right wing. Pass to Johansson. Left point feed. Here's Tootin. Back to Ryan Johansson. Lets it go, and that hit a body in front. Kessler's out of the box. Both teams are 0 for 1 on the power play. And the Canucks ice the puck for a face-off in the Vancouver zone.
Get an oil change by December 15th and get a free gift. Michelin Hybrid Wiper Blades. Get your coupon at MrLube.com.
After the Florida game, John Tortorella said it was the worst game the Canucks had played all season long, and then he kind of
Backed
off a little bit after watching the tape, but
Didn't like the start, though.
didn't like the finish.
I think he would have liked the start to this one with the mental lapse and the odd-man rush. Presto, 1-0 for the visitors. Kessler chops the puck into Columbus territory. Number 20 for the Blue Jackets is Tim Erickson, making his season debut in place of Wisniewski. Here's Henrik Sedin sliding one to the crease, and Erickson down on the ice, combining with Bobrovsky to cover the puck for a whistle.
A goal scoring through 23 games, and you can see it's not great. It's hard to judge the goals against for the goalies. The save percentage for the goaltenders this year is at an all-time high. .915 is the average save percentage. So the goaltending is that much better, and yet it's just harder to score.
I noticed one year you had a winning record with the Canucks, 14 wins against 12 losses, and a save rate of .851.
Yes. Yeah.
That team must have scored a lot.
They did score a lot. I'd let in goals early, and then they'd know they have to go out. We'll have to get 5 in this one, and away we'd go.
You were like Grant Fuhrer, I bet. You know, the North Stars might get 9, but they weren't going to get that 10.
That 10th one. I'll make that save when it counts.
Face off after a Canuck hand pass in the neutral zone. And Chaput, who had his first career point of the game's only goal, won it. But the Canucks, Tom Sestito, able to play the puck into Columbus territory. Here's Weiss. Back to Stanton. He risks one wide of the goal. Bieksa moves down from the right point, holds the puck in on Calvert. Now it's Welsh poking the puck from Calvert, but he's able to pick it up and get it out while avoiding a check from Dale Weiss. Welsh drives the puck back in. Blue Jackets send it right back out, and Alex Edler finds Sestito. At the end of his shift, he plays the puck into the Columbus zone and heads to the bench. We're halfway through the first period. 1-0 Blue Jackets on the first of the year from Matt Calvert. Alex Edler risks the puck. Round to the far side. Blake Como goes back. Cuts in front of his own goal. Dishes the puck to the near side for Letestu, and he gets it out. Edler tried to send it the other way. That hit Como. But Garrison has the puck ahead to Richardson. Saucer pass to Cassian, who tips the puck in. Burrows is after it. Clears it a line. Held in by Vancouver. Garrison down the right side. Backhander stopped by Bobrovsky. As the Blue Jackets did a good job clearing the Canucks out, Bobrovsky had a good look at that one, and Jason Garrison denied by the Columbus netminder.
Well, these two teams met just over a month ago in Columbus, and that night it was all Curtis McElhinney, making his first start in 22 months. Turned aside 37 shots, led the Jackets to a 3-1 home ice win, his first win in a couple of years in the National Hockey League.
That's the best game I've seen Curtis McElhinney play, and I used to do Calgary Flames games when Curtis was there. He had some good games, but that one he was just outstanding.
Blue Jackets offside as Nikitin bobbled the puck at the Vancouver blue line.
That one, the Blue Jackets scored a goal that was kind of like their goal here, where the defenseman pinches in. You end up with a forward back, and the forward doesn't really know how to play the rush. It ends up in your net.
That one a lot later in the hockey game. This one early certainly is overcomeable a word? I like to make up one word for broadcast.
Yes, overcomeable is not a word.
That's not offside because the puck came back into the Vancouver zone off the Canuck. So action continues. Garrison taps the puck to Edler. He moves down to hold the puck in the zone. Letestu wound up putting it over the glass. They say it deflected, however, so the face-off will stay in the Canuck zone.
Now here's what I mean. On this goal, early in the game, you want to be aggressive, but there's Zach Kassian. Now he's the man back. You have numbers, but you can see how poorly he played the rush. Okay, he takes the shot. Now he's the man back. Skate backwards, don't attack there. You're supposed to be the defenseman. Delay, back up, and stall it until you get some help. But Kassian, after he missed the check, then it was a 3-on-1.
Ryan Kessler settles a bouncing puck. Tips it down into Columbus zone. Foligno, first man back. Dumps the puck ahead, right to Mike Santorelli. In deep for Daniel Sedin. Lets the puck continue on to Santorelli. Oh, hit hard and hit his head on the dasher. Oh my goodness. David Savard's going to get a penalty, and Santorelli shaken up on the play.
And that's a boarding call, but it wasn't going to be called, John. There was no arm in the air right away until Mike Santorelli was in a little bit of trouble.
Looked a little woozy as he tried to get up.
Here's the hit, and you can see Santorelli turns to go back, and he's hit right in the back. And watch the ref here. It's okay. Here's the play. Here's the hit. Nope. And there, the arm goes up after Mike Santorelli goes down.
2-minute minor for boarding. And the Canucks get their second power play. The first one, an abbreviated attempt, as Ryan Kessler took a holding penalty. Daniel Sedin on the left wing across. Edler with a shot, blocked in front. Ryan Murray gets the loose puck, can't clear past Edler. Henrik Sedin. And now Edler holds it in. Daniel Sedin on the left wing. Edler to Daniel. Back to Edler. One-timer. Stop at the right pad of Bobrovsky. Loose puck. Henrik digging for it. Still loose and cleared to the near side. Daniel Sedin there to pick it up. Daniel in deep. Henrik Sedin behind the net. Into the corner for Daniel. Quickly back to Edler. Edler to Daniel Sedin, top of the circle. Daniel to the exit. Drags. Tries a shot. Blocked. Puck loose. Daniel Sedin trying to pick it up. Edler moves down when the Blue Jackets get it out. They'll try to change as Henrik Sedin moves back in with a pass to Kevin Bieksa. Leaves for Daniel Sedin. Daniel cuts wide. Leaves the puck for Henrik. Kessler's in front of the net as Daniel takes a pass in the corner, finds Henrik. Under a minute to go in the power play. Bieksa at the right point. Throws one across for Henrik Sedin. Had to take it on the camera. Henrik down low to Daniel. Sends one in front for Kessler. That was blocked by a sprawling Nikita Nikitin. Kessler keeps the puck alive. Banks it back to Alex Edler. Moves to the middle. Edler with a wrist shot, and that hit Nikitin in front. Second time this period he's been shaken up on a shot block, and Nikitin is struggling to get to the bench.
Without Wisniewski, can't afford to lose Nikitin.
Here's Alex Burrows rushing in. Drops to Dan Hanhus. Across to Garrison. Wrist shot. Blocker saved by Bobrovsky. 15 seconds to go in the Vancouver power play. Another shot. That one a bit of a knuckler from Garrison. And Bobrovsky tracked it and held on.
Canucks do a good job and get the puck to the middle to Alex Edler, and Edler just wires it on net. Bobrovsky stops it. Rebound. And Henrik Sedin's trying to throw it back to Daniel. Shot by Edler, catches Nikitin on the inside of the knee. I wonder if that's just a stinger or if it's going to be more serious.
Blue Jackets clear the puck. And that'll do it for the power play. Canucks, more shots generated, still unable to score. They've outshot the Blue Jackets 9-2 in the hockey game, but they trail 1-0. And Vancouver managed 3 shots on that power play. Umberger hit by Garrison, and Garrison was clipped on that play. He's checking for damage, but stays out. Here's Jannik Hansen. Rushing in. Play broken up. Tanev gets the puck at center and slides it back into Columbus territory. Savard out of the box, back into the game. Plays the puck in. Richardson trying to get it out. Back to collect is Ryan Stanton. Under 6 minutes to go in the first. 1-0 Columbus. Brad Richardson rushes through center. In over the Columbus line on the left wing with a wrist shot, and Savard reached in to tip that one over the glass and out of play. Canucks down a goal despite having the edge in play here in the opening period.
From January 3rd to 6th, you can be a part of the biggest fan road trip of the season. Book your place now to get access to an exclusive pregame coaches talk, alumni meet and greet, private practice, and more. All transportation accommodation included, along with lower bowl tickets to rivals Kings and Ducks. Must book by November 30th. Visit Canucks.com/roadtrip.
There's John Tortorella, who will be pleased to look over his left shoulder and see Mike Santorelli returning to the Vancouver bench. So that's good news for the Canucks, as Santorelli left after that hit from David Savard. Nikita Nikitin has gone to the Columbus dressing room as Bobrovsky stops that Ryan Stanton shot and hangs on for a whistle. Visit Ramada.ca for best rates and special offers.
Canucks doing a good job in the face-off circle. Another face-off win where Ryan Stanton was able to get a shot but no rebound.
10th shot for the Canucks. Blue Jackets have had but 2. Here's Stanton again. Had trouble getting around the linesman, Kyle Murchison. His father-son team in this one. Kyle Murchison, one of the linesmen. His dad, Rick Murchison, is the in-house video goal judge. Long shot by Tanev, deflected wide by Henrik Sedin. Sedin's out together on this ship, along with Ryan Kessler. And part of that might have had to do with Mike Santorelli missing. Oh, that puck thrown in front by Jack Johnson. Expect it when you least expect it.
Yes.
Ryan Kessler carries back in with a wrist shot wide of the goal. Boone Jenner reverses. Here's Johnson behind the net. Passes to Ryan Murray. And the former Everett Silvertip finds Artem Anisimov, who relays to Cam Atkinson, and he dumps the puck in. Alex Edler throws one to center. And icing waved off as Bobrovsky comes out to play the puck to Tim Erickson. He can't get it by Santorelli in the corner. Calvert with a chance to move the puck out. Pinged by Burrows. Puck comes free. And Chaput moves out for Columbus. Gets to the Vancouver line and backhands the puck in behind the goal. Calvert there ties up Garrison. Puck kicked to the near side. After it is Edler. And he makes a pass in the middle of Alex Burrows. Burrows crosses the red and dumps the puck in. Bobrovsky out of his net leaves for Erickson, who's able to tip the puck ahead to Jared Boll. Boll into the middle. Chaput to Savard. And he elects to bring the puck around to the near side with under 4 minutes to go in the first. Columbus leading 1-0. Chris Higgins inside his own blue line. Passes to an open side. Burrows forces the puck forward. Onto it is Blake Como, who drops off to Jack Johnson. In with the puck is Letestu, pass to McKenzie, and he let go of the third Columbus shot of the game, stopped by Luongo.
Check out PlayNow.com and bet live during the game. If you gamble, use your game sense.
Only the third shot of the period on Roberto Luongo. The first 2 were great scoring chances. The Calvert goal was in by himself, and then a one-timer by Anisimov that he almost spanned on, but it was still a tough save. One time, 10 feet out, right in the middle.
Hansen lost his stick trying to check the point man. Now a deflected shot. Ryan Johansson tipped that one in. Luongo looked behind him, but he had the puck underneath his pads.
Right from the faceoff. Good tip in by Johansson. And Roberto Luongo able to just squeeze it, had the stick down, pads down.
Hit the stick and then the left skate of Johansson, changing direction twice. Ryan Johansson to take this face-off against Brad Richardson. And the Canucks able to win possession of the puck. Edler couldn't get it by Nick Foligno. Hooked by Hansen. Play goes on. Edler can't get it around the boards. Johansson blocked that one. Here's Ryan Johansson trying to pass behind the net for R.J. Umber. Edler cut that off, and he sends the puck off the glass ahead to Zach Kassian. Into the middle, Richardson. In over the line with a wrist shot, and that went off the stick of Savard and wide. Ryan Murray trying to clear the puck. Johansson back to help out. And now Umperter gets it outside the line to center. Johansson chasing it on Bieksa. Ryan Johansson comes up with the puck. Sends it around to the near side. Edler waiting there for Vancouver. And he reverses behind the goal to Kevin Bieksa. Canucks changing in the neutral zone as Bieksa passes ahead to Hansen. He slaps a rolling puck into the Columbus zone. Came right towards the net, knocked away by Bobrovsky. Nikitin having trouble, checked by Jeremy Welsh. McKeaton tries the other side in his first shift back since briefly going to the Columbus dressing room. Now Atkinson in on the right wing. And he's angled to the corner by Stanton, who finished the check there. Canucks can't get the puck out. Held in by Tuch. Garrison gives it away behind the net. Boone Jenner trying to center. Anisimov checked by Weiss. And Garrison backhands the puck to Sestito, who's able to tip it down into Columbus territory. Under 2 minutes to go, first period. Fedor Tuch up for Mark Letestu, and he deflects the puck into the Vancouver end. Tanev brings it around to Henrik Sedin. Out there with Daniel again. Here's Kessler skating in over the Columbus line. Turns, drops. Henrik with a weak shot. Daniel on the rebound. Couldn't get it on goal. Got a weak attempt away, and it was blocked by Ryan Murray. Letestu at center with a pass to Jack Johnson. Plays the puck in behind. Tanev trying to get it around. That was blocked by Letestu, but here's Hanhus with some room. Ahead to Daniel Sedin. Johnson had him lined up, and the puck stays in the Vancouver zone. Tanev reverses once more for Hanhus. Around the boards for Daniel. Shields the puck from Johnson. Now banks it off the boards and out. Foligno checked there by Kessler. Henrik Sedin gets the puck. Works it to Daniel. He's in the Columbus zone with room. Centers the puck. Hanhus. Stop! And the rebound got by Kessler, who then barreled into the netminder. Play goes on. Henrik Sedin makes a move to the middle. He's checked, and the puck is hooked ahead to Johansson. Moving in on Alex Edler. Umberger going to the net. Here's Johansson centering. Puck comes back to him on the backhand. Centers and knocked away from Foligno, allowing Daniel Sedin to skate the puck the other way. In with Burrows. Pass across. Edler shoots. Knocked down. Rebound. Burrows couldn't jam it home. Burrows again gets the puck back to Alex Edler. 30 seconds to go in the period. Slap pass, and Daniel couldn't get it on goal. Here's Mike Sandarelli. Working along the boards. Umberger tries to clear. Held in by Edler. Alex Edler wrists one behind the goal. Daniel Sedin is there. Daniel trying to center the puck. Comes back to me. Shoots. He scores! It's been a while, but Daniel Sedin's on the score sheet. The game's tied at 1.
The shots are 14-4 in favor of the Canucks, and this is a big goal with 15.4 seconds left. Nice play by Alex Edler. Just flip it deep. I think this goes off Fedor Tuch, who is standing right in front of Sergei Bobrovsky. But Daniel directs it and gets it elevated. Goalie goes down, takes away the bottom of the net, and Daniel's able to find some room.
Daniel Sedin has his 8th. And I mentioned it's been a while. He was pointless in 6. And goalless in 7. But he gets a late one here. And the Vancouver Canucks will head to the dressing room on even terms, which is probably the worst they deserved after the first period.
This period brought to you by Toyota. The year-end countdown is on now, making it the perfect time to get into a new Toyota.
Daniel Sedin at 19:44 tying the game after Matt Calvert had opened the scoring. We'll hear from Daniel Sedin in a moment with Joey Kenward. And then our panel, Ian McIntyre, Tony Gallagher, and Dan Murphy. 20 minutes done at Rogers Arena, and it's a 1-1 tie.
Just about to drop the puck on the second period. Let's take a look at the first period scoring summary brought to you by Future Shop for the season's hottest gadgets at the best price guaranteed. Head to futureshop.ca. Season's gadgets from Future Shop. Matt Calvert's first game back from abdominal surgery gets his first of the season, opened the scoring before Daniel Sedin tied it late with his 8th of the season.
Daniel, with that goal, John, moving to within 1 of being the 3rd Canuck to hit the 300-goal plateau. He will join Trevor Linden and Marcus Naslund. Could come as early as tonight, of course. And it would appear the Sedins, who were reunited in that first period, will stay that way here in the second. As the Canucks start the period with a line of Sandarelli, Higgins, and Burrows. So the names have gone back into a hat and been thrown back against the wall. Canucks play the puck into the Columbus zone. Hughes down the left side for Higgins. Rings the puck around. Santorelli is there. In behind for Burrows. Hit from behind. There'll be a penalty to Jack Johnson. And the Canucks get an early power play as Johnson will get a cross-checking penalty for this hit on Burrows.
This was almost like a lacrosse play by Johnson. Alex Burrows had position on him. Instead of just reaching around trying to play the puck, he gives him the cross-check. Right there, Alex Burrows goes into the boards and Johnson's off for cross-check.
Third power play for the Canucks. Comes 34 seconds into the second period. They've had 4 power play shots and certainly generated chances, but couldn't beat Sergei Bobrovsky. They'll try again here early in the middle frame.
They had 14 shots on goal, 14 shots blocked, and 2 missed against only 6 going the other way.
Daniel Sedin steps in on the left side, pass to Henrik, try to get it back to Daniel. That was blocked. Keaton turns deep in his own zone and backhands the puck all the way down the ice. Minute 25 to go in the Vancouver power play. Kessler's pass deflects off the far glass. Kessler hustles in after the puck. Daniel Sedin there as well. Big battle for the puck in the corner. Henrik Sedin comes out with it. Pass the goal line, deflects off Kessler right to Bobrovsky, and he covers for the whistle.
Well, you look around the league and power play opportunities, the San Jose Sharks, who are one of the elite teams in the league. 94 opportunities. Washington could have used a couple more against Montreal in their game tonight. Although they did have their chance, they had a 5-on-3 in the first period. Winnipeg.
Most of those teams have played fewer games than the Canucks, which, for the conspiracy theorists, will make the evidence more damning.
Canucks, who are so good on face-offs in the first period, lose that one, and it's going to kill a good 20 seconds of this power play.
Here's Bieksa rushing the puck to center. Pass onto the right wing. Santorelli with a step. Santorelli stops, tries a pass for Hansen. It was behind him, and intercepting is Anisimov, getting the puck down the ice. 40 seconds to go in the man advantage. 2 minutes into the second, a 1-1 tie. Bieksa chases in after his own dumping. Hits Savard. Santorelli after the puck gets sent to the blue line by Higgins. Here's Garrison. To Santorelli. Cross for Hansen. Puck bounced off his stick. McKenzie trying to clear. Can't get it out. Bieksa for Higgins. Sends the puck around. Garrison down from the right corner. Covering for him is Hansen. Letestu plays the puck past him. Bieksa over to pick it up. With under 10 seconds to go in the Vancouver power play. Bieksa being pounded by Letestu. Still has the puck. Passes to Garrison as the power play comes to an end. And Vancouver's 0 for 3 with a man advantage. Zach Kassian back for a puck in his own zone. Gave it away to Umberger. Centering pass blocked by Bieksa. He can't clear past Tutin. Tries a wrist shot. And that one goes up high and out of play on the far side of the ice in the Vancouver zone. Well, the NFL week continues Sunday. And Sportsnet and City, the place to be. Dallas and the Giants, and Indianapolis against Arizona. Sunday, 1 o'clock Pacific.
How'd you do last night?
I'm 0-1.
You're 0-1.
I should get Simon to do my picks.
Yes, your dog probably would. Right paw, left paw.
3 minutes into the second. Brad Richardson trying to move the puck out of his own zone. Kassian there as well. Hughes comes in to pick up the puck, turns, and gets it up the boards and out. Kassian rink wide. Here's Sestito. Poking the puck in deep. So this is a different look line as well. With Sestito moving up the depth chart a bit. Here's Kassian. Long wrist shot. Swallowed up by Bobrovsky. And Sestito in a bit of a shoving match in front. First with Tutin and then Nikita Nikitin.
Columbus Blue Jackets points in 6 of their last 7, and that's without Marian Gaborik for the last 4 games. And you wonder about with Gaborik and Nathan Horton coming into the lineup with Todd Richards, his philosophy of coaching, the way he coached last year with this team, he might have to change. He might have to open it up a little bit, and I don't know whether this team is built to open it up. Built around their goalie and defense.
We'll certainly want to wait for the injured players you talked about to get back before you consider that. Chris Tanev at center. Ahead for Chris Higgins. That's broken up. Here's Ryan Johansson on the right wing. Umberger goes to the net. Johansson stops. Now sends the puck in deep for R.J. Umberger. Umberger turning, trying to get away from Tanev. Behind the net for Foligno. Missed the puck. Eriksson moves down from the left corner. Gets it in deep for Umberger. And Hughes checks in. Tanev tips the puck around. Eriksson holds it in. Santorelli had his stick lifted as he had a chance to skate onto the puck. Here's a chance for Eriksson at the blue line with a wrist shot. Chipped wide by Mike Santorelli. Burrows kicks the puck ahead. Here's Santorelli through center. Foligno moves to check him. Following up is Higgins. Comes up with the puck in the corner. Chris Higgins sidesteps a check from Savard, and then the puck was knocked away from him. Picked up by Johansson, who brings it to center. Jason Garrison goes back for the dump in. Hard pass to center. Jeremy Welsh. Now Sestito on this line, so double shifted for Tom Sestito. He plays with Welsh and Weiss. Got a penalty coming up to Dan Hanhuse for a hit on Derek McKenzie. And it's going to be a boarding call to the Canucks defenseman, putting Columbus on the power play.
Well, Derek McKenzie double shifted, or not double shifted, I mean literally double shifted. Looked like he was going one way, went back the other way, and Dan Hanhuse catches him in the numbers and ends up with the boarding penalty. McKenzie, who leads the Blue Jackets in hits coming into this game with 65, is the receiver of that one.
Canucks can't get the foul. They do. Boy, that's close play, and it looked like Anisimov held it in. So Vancouver might have caught a break there as Kyle Murchison blows it down on the offside.
Alex Burrows tried that long pass up the middle. Todd Richards didn't like the call.
Blue Jackets win the face-off outside the Canuck blue line. Ryan Murray has the puck. Here's Anisimov into the left side pass to Jenner. Boone Jenner carries down, now banks the puck back to Murray. 5 minutes into the second, a 1-1 tie. Blue Jackets on the power play. Johnson's pass is off the mark. Edler gets the puck in the corner, shielding it away from a trio of Blue Jackets. Jenner intercepts in the corner. Edler moves to check him. Anisimov picks up the puck in front for Atkinson. Cam Atkinson back to Jack Johnson. He hooks the puck over to Anisimov. Anisimov checked by Richardson. Canucks couldn't get the puck out. Here's a chance for Murray, and Burrows blocked it, and then Bieksa blocked the second attempt. 2 blocks, short-handed for the Canucks, but the Blue Jackets still have the puck. Jenner with a backhand centering pass. That was blocked by Bieksa. Boone Jenner again. Passes back. Johnson to Murray. Over to Jack Johnson. One-timer, and Luongo steered that one wide. Here's Anisimov to Atkinson. Jenner gets the puck. Sends it back to the blue line to Johnson. Jack Johnson to Cam Atkinson. Had that good chance in the first period, did Atkinson, on a one-timer in front. He dishes back to Johnson. Johnson long shot. Luongo stopped that through traffic. Atkinson again. Burrows checks him. Canucks desperately wanting a change here. 25 seconds to go in the Columbus power play. Blue Jackets are changing as they control the puck. Johnson down to Foligno, who's just come onto the ice. Nick Foligno back to Jack Johnson. 15 seconds to go in the power play. Canucks sagging here. Here's Johansson centering for Foligno. It went off his skate. Bieksa chops at the puck. Can't get it out past Johnson. Jack Johnson moves to the middle. Dishes off. Blue Jackets controlling. Umberger bobbled the pass. Hanhuse is out of the box. Canucks will hope for a whistle here as Richardson gets to the loose puck. Takes his time, flips it ahead and out, and it's over the stick of Murray, which will allow the Canucks to make their change. Behind the play, Bieksa and Umberger were tangled up as the Blue Jackets bring the puck to center. Foligno, checked by Kessler. Here comes Daniel Sedin on the left wing. Daniel, pass to Henrik, delays. Henrik, round the net, out the near side. Penalty coming up to Columbus as Kessler was taken down in front. And as Johansson gets the puck, the whistle blows for a cross-checking call. Tootin heading off, Canucks to the power play when we come back.
Up until the Florida game, the Canucks have gone 10 games without giving up a 5-on-4 power play goal. Reason why blocking shots there is Alex Burrows with the first one, Kevin Bieksa with the second one. He and R.J. Umberger get all tied up. No penalties called on that one, but there is one. Henrik Sedin goes around behind the net. Ryan Kessler is flattened by Fedor Tootin. And Tootin's in the penalty box.
Power play number 4 for the Canucks and a chance to take their first lead. Handhuse to Kessler, takes a look. Wrist shot attempt, comes back to him, lets it go, and I think that hit Burrows in front. Canucks back to the 4-forward set with Handhuse, the lone defenseman. Henrik Sedin, centering pass, tried to force it, but Daniel was able to glove the puck down. Here's Handhuse with a long blast, deflected, loose Daniel. Couldn't get a shot away, but he gets the puck to Henrik Sedin. Henrik pass for Daniel, centers the puck. Burrows stopped by the right pad of Bobrovsky, and Kessler put the rebound wide. Henrik Sedin falls down but gets the puck to Handhuse. In deep for Daniel Sedin. It's out of his reach. Burrows hustles after the puck to the left-wing corner. Round for Henrik Sedin. Henrik pass to Daniel. Daniel to Handhuse. Just held it onside. Handhuse to Daniel Sedin. Slap shot. Kicked out. Loose puck. Kessler couldn't get to it. It was cleared away by Nikitin in the nick of time. And the puck sent down the ice anyway by Letestu. Looked like Kessler had a tap in, but I think it was Nikitin saving the day for Columbus. Here's Henrik Sedin stepping around Calvert, in over the Columbus line. Henrik down the left side. Anisimov gets the puck, finds Murray, and he's able to send it off the boards and all the way down the ice. Luongo out of his net. That one will be intercepted by Anisimov. Makes some moves to kill some time, and now the puck poked away by Handhuse and picked up by Daniel Sedin, who's still out there. Average a minute 15 per shift in the first period. He'll head off now after the puck is played in. Comes to the blue line. Hansen took a swing at it, didn't get anything on it. The Blue Jackets clear the zone again. Jannik Hansen, first man back. Hooks the puck around. Chaput holds that one in. Hansen intercepts, and here he comes with 10 seconds to go in the Vancouver power play. Jannik Hansen to the Columbus line. One hands the puck into Blue Jacket territory. Savard helps it around. Held in by Garrison, but it just came out. Delayed offside here. They'll blow it down just as the penalty to Tootin comes to an end. And the Canucks 0 for 4 on the power play. Game still tied at 1.
Well, the power play looked good for the first minute. Lots of puck movement, good chances. Shots through. The deflection just misses Alex Burrows in the face. Tipped with a high stick, and then he has a chance. Ryan Kessler, as you said, just robbed his Nikita. Nikitin got there just before he did.
Chris Tanev sends a long one in on Bobrovsky. Derek McKenzie clears the rebound. Edler ahead for Kassian. Again, we see Sestito with these two. Richardson on the forecheck. Cassie did a flyby, couldn't come up with the puck. There's a penalty coming up to the Canucks as Jenner was tripped. Play continues with Atkinson coming in. Emily missed the net after getting around Luongo. A glorious chance for Cam Atkinson. Puck stayed out, but the Blue Jackets will head to the power play as Richardson goes to the box for Vancouver. Columbus to the power play. Brad Richardson off for tripping. And a chance for the Blue Jackets to take the lead after killing off a Vancouver power play. Here's Ryan Johansson to Nick Foligno. Chance for Letestu. He shoots. Luongo the save with Umberger right there. No rebound to be had.
Well, the Blue Jackets just trying to direct it at the net and hope they get a rebound. R.J. Umberger right in front of Roberto Luongo. And Roberto, good stop, no rebound. Letestu, 30 feet out.
Just the 7th shot for the Blue Jackets. Letestu holds the puck in. Steps around Kessler, passes to Tooten, back to Letestu. Here's Johansson with a one-timer, blocked by Bieksa, didn't know where the puck was. Higgins comes back to poke it free, trying to work it to Bieksa. Blue Jackets send it to the other side, and Tooten is in from the right point. Pass intercepted by Kessler, and the Canucks have 3 to center shorthanded. Chris Higgins in on the right wing. Higgins centers for Bieksa. He couldn't make contact going to the net. Bieksa gets possession of the puck again. He'll try to kill some time here. Blue Jackets take the puck away, and Nick Foligno starts out. Ryan Johansson in on the left wing. Turning with the puck, hooks it back to Letestu, bobbled it a bit. Santorelli's lost his stick as he tries to defend against Letestu. Johansson sidesteps the errant stick, which is now retrieved by Santorelli. Johansson into the corner. Umberger centers, and what a chance there, but the puck just ricocheted off the stick of Jack Johnson, who couldn't take that pass cleanly. He might have had a gimme.
Looking for his 3rd goal of the season.
Scored his first ever goal against the Canucks. And yes, it was Roberto Luongo. 30 seconds to go on the man advantage. Hanhus steps into Murray. Jenner tips the puck back to Johnson. He finds Atkinson, who turns back to the left point, now works his way down the boards. Passes in deep for Jenner. Pressured by Tanev. Daniel Sedin, after the puck comes loose to Henrik, he'll send it all the way down with just 10 seconds to go on the penalty to Brad Richardson.
Johnson's other 2 goals are both on the power play.
He's got the puck, but the power play is expiring now. Richardson's back on. Teams are combined 0 for 7 with the man advantage. As Columbus fails on its 3rd opportunity, Richardson almost closed his hand on the puck there. We've seen that call once tonight. Here's Cassidy, wrist shot, scores! Zach Kassian with a shot that Bobrovsky got a lot of, but not enough, and his 5th makes it 2-1.
Look at this play by Zach Kassian at the blue line. Staying on side. Take it in control on side. And we talked about the ups and downs of Sergei Bobrovsky. Here's one that he'd like to have back. Just squeaks through 14-hole underneath his arm. What a job by Zach Kassian to stay on side of the blue line.
.12:05, the time of the go-ahead goal. Canucks with their first lead of the game. And that's the 4th goal in the last 11 games for Zach Kassian. Stanton fell down, but he comes back to get the puck, ices it. And there'll be a face-off in the Vancouver zone here after Kassian provided Vancouver with the go-ahead goal here in the 2nd.
If you drive on snow and ice, you don't want all-season tires. You want all-weather tires. Get Nokian's most advanced all-weather tire, the WRG3 at Cal Tire.
Here's Zach Kassian, a right-hand shot down the left wing. So the angle's not as bad, and the shot, goaltender should have had it, no doubt about that, but a good shot. It's always a great shot when it goes in.
Zach Kassian, who is featured on the front of this evening's game program. It's a good time to score a big goal. We won't know how big for a while. But the Canucks have done a really good job of sticking with it, John, after the most difficult start to this one. Dominating play in the first, but gave up an odd man rush and got scored on the first shot they allowed. They had answered twice since 2-1 Vancouver. Here's Kassian again. Inside, outside on Savard. Round the net. Zach Kassian still with the puck. Trying to hook it for Bieksa. That was broken up, and now Kassian has to defend as Calvert moves in on the left wing. Calvert with a wrist shot, and Luongo might have got a piece of that. Went over top of the net. Richardson and Stanton, the assists on the Kassian goal. Here comes McKenzie to the Vancouver line, dumping the puck in. Kassian over to pick it up. He'd like to get off the ice, but he gives the puck away again. Here's a chance for Como, and the exit tipped that one out of play. So Zach Kassian, big goal, and then a couple of giveaways here, and the Canucks were up against it for a bit. 2 goals for the Canucks, 2 winners on score and win for Safeway and Sunripe Juice. First of all, in the first period, Rita Griffith of Penticton, congratulations. He won the Troy-built single-stage snow thrower with electric start. Daniel Sedin providing that one. Zach Kassian here in the second. And another winner for Safeway and Sunripe Juice from Maple Ridge, Frank Grigas. Frank, you've won a DVD prize pack from E1.
Now, I know some people might think that Zach Kassian was offside on this play, but he has control. You're allowed to back in if you have control. He's got control at the blue line, touches it outside, and then pulls it in. He's got it. He's onside and pulls it in. And snaps it by Sergei Bobrovsky.
Ryan Kessler after the puck at center. Now gets it at his own blue line. Drops off to Kevin Bieksa, who dumps the puck around to Ryan Stanton, who again fell down. Kessler's there to help him out. Blue Jackets laying back here, John. Filling up the neutral zone. As Henrik Sedin moves in on the left wing. Drops to Daniel. Daniel shoots. Bobrovsky the same. Henrik on the rebound. Puck is in! Kicked in by Bobrovsky. It'll be Henrik Sedin's goal. And the Canuck captain makes it 3-1.
You know, John, you talked about them sitting back, the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's the second period. You're down 2-1. You can't do that. You have to be more aggressive. And here they are sitting back. And when you do that, you're susceptible to things like this. Shot and a rebound. And Henrik, an ugly goal, there's no doubt about that. But a greasy goal, you go to the net hard, and Sergei Bobrovsky kicks it in his own net. Shot by Daniel, it's off his chest. Henrik digging away. And Bobrovsky doesn't know where it is and kicks it in his own net.
Both Sedins on the scoreboard now. Henrik has his 5th. Daniel has a goal and an assist. And that's Daniel's first multi-point effort since October 22nd against the Washington Capitals. Or pardon me, October 28th. 3 goals, John. A virtual outburst.
Yes. The floodgates have opened.
Here's another chance for Edler. Scores! They've opened some more. 2 goals in 16 seconds, and the Canucks are up 4-1.
Now, you can hear the post on this shot.
I thought I heard 2.
Yes, me too. I think it went around and hit the other one. This is a good shot by Alex Edler. And again, Columbus sitting back. Everybody comes back, and that leaves the points open. When everybody collapses, that leaves the points wide open. And that shot by Alex Edler off the post, caroms around, and hits the other post. Another shot by Alex Edler, and Alex Burrows is getting out of the way, screen, and it's by Bobrovsky.
Edler has a goal and an assist in the hockey game. They're still announcing Henrik's goal. And Edler 16 seconds after that one made it a 3-goal lead for the Vancouver Canucks, who are breathing a lot easier now. 4 unanswered for the Canucks. Ryan Kessler got the second assist on Henrik's 5th. And here's Luongo out to tip that puck. Hughes picks it up, stops to get away from Jared Boll, who steals. Jared Boll with a centering pass that deflected towards Luongo. Now behind the net, Santorelli gets the puck around for Burrows. Shots are 25 for Vancouver to 7 for Columbus. 11-3 here in the second. And Chris Higgins is after the puck at the Blue Jackets blue line. Picked up by Nick Foligno, who steps around Burrows, flips the puck forward, gloved away by Hughes. Carrying on is Chaput with a shot that's blocked by Tanev. Canucks get the puck to the line and out. Hughes able to clear that puck. And here's Henrik Sedin. Henrik turns and gets the puck into the Columbus zone. Edler from Higgins and Santorelli. The scoring play on the 4-1 goal for Vancouver. Here's Ryan Kessler to Henrik Sedin. Henrik moves in, delays at the blue line, drops for Stanton. Near side pass for Daniel, actually went off Kessler's stick. Henrik gets the puck back to Bieksa, in deep for Daniel Sedin. Daniel back to Bieksa. Kevin Bieksa with a wrist shot blocked by McKenzie. That's stung. McKenzie stays out there. Henrik Sedin has the puck behind the net. Henrik comes out on the backhand, centers the puck, and Daniel hit the post. Rebound, cuts the put it wide. Daniel Sedin that close to his 300th career goal, but he put it off the pipe, and it's still 4-1. Columbus ices the puck.
Fans enjoying this.
Happy days are here again,
Yes,
John.
that's right. Sergei Bobrovsky, it's a shooting gallery. Henrik Sedin behind the net. Everybody's looking at Henrik. Puck comes out, and ooh, is that both posts? I think it was.
That would be a running theme if it was both posts. Stays 4-1 Canucks, 3:41 to go in the second. Jack Johnson trying to clear off the drop. Chaput gets the puck. Ahead to Umberger, who wrists it in behind the Canuck goal. Luongo cuts it off and passes to Alex Edler. Edler delays before sending one forward. Sestito can't get the puck out. Blue Jackets dump it behind the net again. Here's Garrison. Hit before he can make a play. Welsh there to help him out. Gets the puck around for Sestito. This time he gets it outside the line to center. Picking it up is Jeremy Welsh. Nice shift, and he's in on the left wing. Penalty coming up here to Weiss, I think, for interference. As Dale Weiss set a pick at the blue line for Welsh, and he'll head off. Blue Jackets down 3 now, but they're heading to the power play.
Welcome back to Vancouver, where the Safeway's feature participating product for the game is Sunripe Juice.
Dale Weiss coming across. Puck going into the offensive zone, so what's he do? Well, you're right, that's a little pick. And the interference call. The Keaton knocked down by Weiss.
Blue Jackets, 4th power play. There's a great shot. Luongo stopped. Jenner couldn't get the rebound home, and Hughes hammers the puck around and down. 3 minutes to go in the second. And the Canucks with 3 goals here in the middle period, breaking a 1-1 game wide open. Fetter 2, still with the puck, finds Atkinson. He relays to Anisimov, now Jenner. Back to 2. Slap shot deflected by Atkinson over top of the goal. Burrows chops at the puck, held in by Cam Atkinson. Passes to the left point to Fetter 2. Shooting to the slap shot. Luongo saw that one all the way as Tanev boxed out Jenner. Now Atkinson in the line. Dishes off, one-timer by Anisimov, and that's off his stick and over the glass. There'll be a face-off to the left of Luongo.
Fans, please turn your attention to the bottom ring of our scoreboard versus
Columbus getting their shots from the outside. Roberto Luongo hanging in there. Shots directed at the net before this power play were 45-17 in favor of the Canucks. Blue Jackets have directed 4 or 5 on this power play. A couple of them have got through.
Loose puck. And a good job by Kessler and Bieksa to hustle to it, poke it out to center. 2 minutes to go in the second period, under a minute to go in the penalty to Dale Weiss. Canucks 3 goals came in a span of 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Club record for fastest 3 goals is 48 seconds. So they didn't approach that, but it sure felt good for the Canucks, who scored 4 for the first time since their cathartic win in San Jose a couple of weeks back.
Cathartic. I like that.
Do you?
Yes.
They liked it too, and that's why it was cathartic. It had been a while. Bieksa gets to that loose puck. Uh-oh. I thought it was going over the glass. I got the bad angle. That was nowhere near, and he gets it down the ice. 10 seconds to go in the Wiesmeyer. And here's Blake Como. Down the left side, wide on Tanev. Centers the puck. Daniel Sedin there to poke it to the corner. Blue Jackets dump it to the near side. Penalty's over. Weiss back onto the ice. Both teams in this hockey game are 0 for 4 on the power play. Penalty killers carrying the day. Canucks carrying the period, which is into its final minute. Blue Jackets credited with 3 shots on that last power play, which matched their total for the period to that point. Here's Tanev in full flight. Fakes the shot. Here's Tanev. Sharp angle bid. Stop. Henrik was after the rebound. He was tied up by Savard. Blue Jackets get the puck out, and here's Jared Boll. Stanton over to meet him. Lost his stick. Boll chopped it out of his hands. He's got the puck back to Eriksson. Tim Eriksson in front. Luongo diving out. The puck stayed out. Luongo grabs it. They're saying Bieksa grabbed it. Blue Jackets arguing for a penalty shot. But that's the second wide open net this period that Columbus has missed.
Well, the other one was at a key time. Cam Atkinson would have put the Blue Jackets right back in this game. This one, Roberto Luongo very aggressively comes over, dives with the stick out. Give Roberto credit. I don't know whether you get credit for a save on this one. No, it hits the side of the net, but he is the reason that shot missed the net.
Sorry, that was Henrik Sedin, 33, not 3, that the Blue Jackets were arguing and grabbed the puck, but looked like Luongo got it.
Yes, he did get it. But out came the trapper.
Wasn't in the crease either. Could have still been a penalty had it been Henrik concealing it. Final 10 seconds of the second period. Canucks will try to keep the puck to the outside here. Hansen doesn't play it towards the blue line, keeps it deep, and that will do it for period number 2. And a most successful one for the Canucks, but it's not done yet as Jenner and Edler were involved. Jared Boll is on the ice. He and Bieksa come together, but it looks like players will separate, head to their dressing rooms after the Canucks got goals from Henrik Sedin. His was sandwiched in between goals from Alex Edler and Zach Kassian. And the Canucks are up by 3. We've got Don Taylor and an update ahead. And Tony Gallagher, Ian McIntyre joining Dan Murphy. Through 2 in Vancouver, and the Canucks on top. Healthily, it's 4-1.
Welcome back to Vancouver. Canucks with a 4-1 lead heading into the third period against the Blue Jackets. Scoring summaries brought to you by Panago Pizza. Before, during, or after the game, get a fresh Panago. Matt Calvert opened the scoring in this one with his first before Daniel Sedin tied it up late in the first period. In the second, all Vancouver. Cassian's 5th, Henrik's 5th, and Alex Edler was 3rd on the season, giving Vancouver the 4-1 lead.
All right, it's time for John Garrett's Fresh Take, brought to you by Subway. Escape the cold with the new Sriracha Steak Melt. Subway, eat fresh.
Well, it's not such a fresh take when Henrik and Daniel score, but the way they score. This is the fresh take. Isn't that fresh? A spinorama and a shot by Daniel. Nothing that pretty about that one. And what's pretty about this? Not much, but they all count. And our fresh take is the Sedins getting some dirty goals.
Canucks 9-3-1 this year when both Twins get a point in a game. And an early whistle to start the third, and in their careers when they each hit the score sheet in the same game. The Canucks have a record of 200 games above 500. 283 wins, 83 losses, 45 in the third column.
The only other person who would know that probably is Greg Shannon.
Somewhere Jeff Patterson is doing a slow burn. Mike Santorelli after the puck. Along with Alex Burrows, Ryan Johansson comes up with it for Columbus. Ahead for Atkinson, couldn't get by hand. Hughes Burrows with a chance on the backhand, centering for Higgins, and the pass was blocked by Jack Johnson. Higgins works the puck to Burrows on the right wing. Santorelli takes his pass. Mike Santorelli in behind for Higgins. Johnson's on him. Knocks him down in the corner and pokes the puck ahead, but Santorelli right there to hold it in. Down for Higgins. Burrows is in front. There's the pass. He shoots, and Bobrovsky coming to his left. Able to make the save and deny Alex Burrows his first of the year.
Well, Alex Burrows had to reach back to get that one, and that's why Sergei Bobrovsky had time to come across. He's waiting for it. He's looking for the one-timer, but because it is behind him, he has to stop it. And Bobrovsky with a good stop.
Sedins and Kessler up. Daniel gets the puck off the draw. Curls to the corner. Cross-check to the ice by 2. And the Blue Jackets come up with the puck, get it ahead to Jenner, who's checked at center by Jason Garrison. Henrik Sedin to Daniel Sedin. Puck deflects to Alex Edler. Hard pass intended for Daniel. Slide through to Bobrovsky. And he'll cover the puck for another whistle. Giving us a chance to tell you about two more score and win winners. Henrik Sedin had the 3-1 Vancouver goal by swiping a free club card. Chris Carmack of Victoria has won a Garmin Nuvie GPS courtesy Safeway and Sunripe Juice. And on the 4-1 goal from Alex Edler, another winner, this one from Burnaby, Audrey Murray from Safeway and Sunripe Juice. She won a Hoover Wind Tunnel multi-cyclonic bagless canister. Henrik Sedin in. Pass for Daniel, deflected back to him. Puck behind the net. Knocked out of the air with a high stick of Nikitin, it looked like. But play goes on. Here's Edler with a quick shot. Rebound. Put wide by Henrik Sedin. Here's Daniel to the front. Henrik through the crease and out the other side. Couple of chances for the Canucks, and now the Blue Jackets clear the puck into the bench. The face-off will be deep in Blue Jacket territory.
The Canucks got all the puck luck in the second period. They got some bounces here in the third. They can't buy one. They've been all around Sergei Bobrovsky again.
I didn't know why they didn't blow the whistle there, because Brad Meyer had the hand signal for the high stick.
And it's off Ryan Kessler and just goes wide.
Now another shot wide of the goal. Stanton. And now casting in the corner. Centering pass picked off by Eriksson. He headmans the puck to R.J. Umberger. Chips it forward, skates onto it himself. Stanton sliding to break up the play, but the puck stays in the Vancouver zone. Centering pass, Bieksa knocked it away. Hansen after the puck. Held into the right point by Savard. Bieksa on the other side. One hands the puck along the boards. Eriksson moves down from the line. Umberger trying to center for Foligno. That's broken up. Here's a chance for Savard to let go with a shot. That one changed direction and missed the net. Chaput taking the place of Ryan Johansson on that line for Columbus. Puck played back into Vancouver zone. Blue Jackets can pitch their change as Stanton goes back and plays the puck away from Mark Letestu. Letestu keeps after it. Dale Weiss is there for Vancouver. Bieksa tips the puck to the near side. Jannik Hansen at the end of his shift delays before passing along. One ahead intended for Weiss, but picked off by Ryan Murray. Ahead to Letestu, who plays the puck in. Hansen is forced to stay out still. Handhughes works the puck free to Bieksa. He's been out there a while. Jared Boll in the battle for the puck with Jeremy Welsh, who comes out with it. Welsh with a pass to Weiss. He gets the puck out. Hansen will head to the bench. And Tom Sestito, after a long shift for Jannik Hansen, is over the boards to replace him. Jack Johnson. Sestito got a piece of it. Blue Jackets get the puck to the side. There's going to be a penalty, I think, for that hit by Sestito. They're going to call it charging. You got a minor piece of Johnson, but I guess they're saying he came from a ways.
Well, he does come from a long way away, but he hardly hits Johnson.
Reputation call?
4-1.
Wow. That's not much. John Tortorella has his hands on his head saying, "Are you kidding me?" And I think a lot of people here in attendance feel the same way. Bemused and angry all at the same time.
That used to drive me nuts when I was a goaltender playing, and the call 4-1, and the refs think, well, okay, it doesn't really matter, and then all of a sudden if the other team does score, they're back in it.
Dubious power play here for the Blue Jackets. They'll try to convert. Chance for Johnson, and he whipped on a one-time attempt. Canucks work the puck ahead and out as it was just out of the reach of Cam Atkinson. Fans voicing their displeasure with the call on Tom Sestito. Power play has 90 seconds left. Ryan Johansson moves in. Brings the puck around, held in by Ryan Murray. Burrow's got a piece of that pass, and Tanev hustles to the puck and gets it out. Johansson back in, close play at the line. Johansson, poke check by Handhughes. But able to get the puck back to Johnson. Pressured by Richardson, and then Johnson stood him up. Play goes on. And Canucks, Edler wisely let that puck go because Handhughes was still on the ice. Under a minute to go in the Columbus power play, and Edler flips the puck to the Blue Jackets' blue line. Here's Boone Jenner. Ahead to Artem Anisimov. Bieksa intercepts and plays the puck the other way. 45 seconds to go in the penalty to Tom Sestito as we approach the 5-minute mark of the third. Canucks leading 4-1. Luongo out to play that one. And Edler helps it along. Held in by Eriksson. Wrist shot attempt. Blocked by the left skate of Kevin Bieksa. Battle for the puck along the boards. Comes to the blue line to Eriksson. Tim Eriksson moves to the middle. Passes to Anisimov. Into the corner, Como. Bank pass to Anisimov. Hooks the puck to the left point. Eriksson with a wrist shot. That hit a body in front. Rebound attempt, a backhander. And that attempt by Jenner didn't get through. Here's a shot from the line. And that was blocked as well. On a tip-in try from Jenner. Henrik Sedin gets the loose puck after a hard hit by Bieksa. Dumps it down the ice, and that'll do it. Here's Sestito back on. And the Blue Jackets are now 0 for 5 on the power play. Canucks have killed off 34 of their last 36. Blue Jackets move back in. Garrison trying to break it up behind the net. That's the puck to Stanton. He was checked. Puck is loose in front. Taken away by Kessler, who had his pocket picked by Foligno. Sharp angle shot. Luongo grabs it. And he hangs on for the whistle. Little rough stuff behind the net. Blue Jackets outnumbered. The point men don't want to come in. Want the face-off to stay in the zone, and it's Umberger trying to get in the middle of things, being held back by Ryan Stanton.
Well, Nick Foligno with Ryan Kessler to start that. There's a shot, and Kessler just gives Foligno a little shove, and Foligno right back, glove in the face.
Well, John, I know you'll be watching with a keen eye Barclays Premier League. Everton, Liverpool tomorrow at 4:30. And then Newcastle, Norwich City, 6:30 a.m. As well as Hull City and Crystal Palace. That's also at 6:30 a.m. on Sportsnet World.
The way you sleep, you might be up watching that.
Yeah. I would have this morning. Face-off win for the Blue Jackets. Onto the puck is Jared Boll. McKean with a long blast. Luongo got the right pad on it. Santorelli chips the puck ahead. It took a funny hop, but the Canucks Jason Garrison able to poke it out. Shot back in while the Blue Jackets tag up and play continues. Garrison up the middle of Ryan Kessler. He sends a long one that deflects off Santorelli and in behind the Columbus goal. Blue Jackets get it around and out. Hughes drives the puck back in. Savard to Atkinson, gets around Welsh, but couldn't get by Tanev, and here comes Sestito. Dale Weiss after the puck. Works it to Sestito on the left wing. Round to the other side, Tanev waiting at the right point. Pass down for Welsh, couldn't take it cleanly. Johnson gets the puck ahead, and it's off the skate and out to center. Sestito couldn't corral it at the Columbus blue line. And out with the puck is Ryan Murray. Calvert into the middle. Johansson bobbled the puck, and the Canucks take it back. Sestito tips that one through. No icing. Canucks will start to change as Ryan Murray goes back for the puck. Remember, the Canucks play tomorrow against Chicago here in Vancouver. Hawks watching this one and resting. And you can bet some of the Canuck top players will get a rest here in the third period, at least not play as much as they might have normally.
Hawks coming off that big win in Winnipeg. Jonathan Toews with 4 points.
Murray round to the near side. Como chips the puck to Artem Anisimov. Moving in on Alex Edler, delivered a solid check along the boards. Canucks come up with the puck. Como intercepts, throws one on goal. That deflects off Edler to the other side. Eriksson with a blast. He missed the net. 8 minutes into the third. 4-1 Vancouver. Blue Jackets trying to create a chance. Eriksson, long shot. Rebound. Cleared to the side by Garrison. Again, the Canucks can't get the puck out. Anisimov through the crease. Puck winds up on the stick of Eriksson. That slides one to the side of the goal. Here's Jenner behind the net. Boone Jenner shielding the puck from Edler. Slides one to the side. Luongo knocked that away. Now Anisimov comes out, takes the puck to the point, but Como had moved down. Shooting was already in deep. And the puck escapes the zone. Here's Henrik Sedin. Pass across. Kessler leaves for Stanton. And he backhands the puck into the Columbus end. Foligno around the boards, held in by Henrik Sedin. Here's Daniel behind the net. Daniel gets the puck to Ryan Stanton. Right point pass. Kevin Bieksa fakes the shot. Sends the puck into the corner for Henrik. Henrik Sedin leaves for Daniel Sedin. Out of the corner. Daniel cuts to the high slot. Daniel still with the puck. Passes over to Stanton. Back to Daniel Sedin. Takes a look. Lets it go. Scores! Was it tipped, or is it Daniel's 300th career goal? We'll find out. It's 5-1 Vancouver.
I don't think it was tipped. I think Bobrovsky just fanned on it with his glove. Ryan Stanton skates through the shooting lane. Daniel lets it go, and Bobrovsky right in front of his eyes, up with the catching glove.
Daniel, could you not have made it a clean one for us?
Well, Henrik might be the guy that gets it. It might have hit Henrik's stick.
Daniel pointed at somebody after the puck went in and the red light came on. He pointed maybe towards Henrik, and maybe that's why Bobrovsky couldn't catch it cleanly. But it's 5-1 Canucks. Daniel Sedin may have his 300th. We'll see how they score it here as we approach the halfway mark of the third period. Burrows making moves behind the Columbus goal. Wraparound attempt stopped by Bobrovsky. Jared Boll tips the puck to the far side. Sandman moves down. Higgins. Pass to the slot intended for Santorelli. That's broken up, and here comes Derek McKenzie for Columbus. Gaining center and flipping the puck into the Vancouver zone. Andrews takes a hit in the corner. Tanev as well. Higgins tried to play the puck for Santorelli. That's intercepted and held in by Columbus. Andrews gloves the puck down as we hit the halfway mark of the third. Letestu for Boll. Letestu again. Puck rolled off his stick. Here's Calvert picking it up. He's fresh off the bench. Matt Calvert, who has the only Columbus goal. After the puck again, Andrews plays it forward for Higgins, who chips it out to center. Still no announcement on the fifth Vancouver goal. Here it is. And it is the 300th career goal for Daniel Sedin. Oh, pardon me, it's Henrik Sedin.
It's Henrik's second.
I heard him say second of the game, and I forgot Henrik had one. So there you go. Henrik tipped. And Daniel will have to wait. So it's Henrik from Daniel and Stanton. And Ryan Stanton has a couple of points in this game, John. Daniel has a 3-point effort. Henrik, a couple of goals. All smiles here in Vancouver. As Ryan Johansson moves in, throws on the brakes, drops into Keaton, and his shot deflects wide of the goal. 9 minutes to go in the third. Boone Jenner's shot blocked by Welsh, and the puck ricochets out to center. Henrik with his 5th and 6th goals of the season. Scored the 3-1 tally, and most recently the 5-1 goal for Vancouver. Here's Savard to the line. Richardson blocks that one. Richardson in on the right wing. Lots of room behind the net. Works his way back to the blue line. Dumps the puck in for Jannik Hansen. Bounced over his stick. Savard works it free to Nikitin, who tips the puck near side for Como. Stanton works to hold that puck in the zone. And now loose in front, gobbled up by Savard, who flips the puck ahead and hit Como, but settles at his feet, and Como carries the center with a pass to Jenner. He hammers one around the glass. Anisimov back for Como. His shot blocked. Blue Jackets hold the puck in. Stanton gets it ahead to Jannik Hansen. He finds Kevin Bieksa. And Bobrovsky out to challenge. Bit of a Bronx cheer as he steered that one to the corner. Sestito. Darren's hit Murray. He might get a charging penalty. Foligno gets to the Vancouver blue line and slides the puck in. Here's R.J. Umberger. Nice pass back. Chance for Murray. Pass to the side for Chaput. He couldn't control it. Already has his first career point in this game. Chance there for his first career goal. There's a hit by Sestito and Umberger.
And here's Foligno.
And Sestito are going to fight after the hit on R.J. Umberger. And this is a step up, no, for Foligno, John?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Good team play, but he could be overmatched here. Sestito popped the helmet off early. There goes Sestito's helmet. And Foligno has the jersey up. But then he went down, did Nick Foligno. And he's not done yet. He wants a little ground and pound. Linesman trying to separate them. As Foligno in defense of teammate R.J. Umberger. And his team well behind. Tries to light a fuse here.
Shop and swipe your club card at Safeway today. Watch future Sportsnet telecasts, and you could win a week of unlimited luxury at Dreams Resorts and Spas, courtesy of redtag.ca.
We have another scoring win winner to tell you about. Henrik Sedin's produced a couple of them in this game, and Brand Blair of Kamloops from Safeway and Sunripe Juice. You've won a Lagostina 10-piece stainless steel cookware set.
Here's the rough stuff. There's Sestito hit on Umberger. Umberger's trying to draw the penalty, and Foligno, I think, thought the hit was worse than it was, so he goes after Tom Sestito. And the Blue Jackets go on to play in Toronto on Monday. So a little spirit fight for Nick Foligno.
Here's a chance for Cassian, the backhander wide. And Fedor picks up the puck. There's no armor.
No, I know, but they evened it out, so it doesn't really matter. But they called Foligno for unsportsmanlike and Sestito for boarding.
Luongo just got run into by Derek McKenzie. Bieksa came over to have words with him. And the puck is over the glass and out of play. Search for Canada's next sportscaster. Gillette drafted on Sportsnet 360. Friday is on Sportsnet Pacific. Aspiring broadcasters competing for a one-year contract at Sportsnet and a one-year contract to be a spokesperson for Gillette.
It's over. There's been a winner.
But we can't tell you, can we, John?
No, we
people
can't.
might want to watch it.
They are
Although
going to
you
watch.
are in receipt of the press release.
Yes. I played in the World Championship with Nick Foligno's dad, and it was all emotion. His game was all emotion, and Nick Foligno is a chip off the old block. I know I'm dating myself. You remember
Mike Foligno?
Mike Foligno?
Sure I do.
Leaping Mike.
Just over 6 minutes to go in this one. Canucks leading 5-1. And Dale Weiss shovels the puck for Alex Burrows. Plays across corner, shoot in, and Weiss with one hand on the stick. Poked that one through the crease and out the near side. Sedins have played just 3 shifts here in the third period. On one of them, they produced a 5-1 goal. So the Canucks try to finish this one up and rest up for tomorrow against Chicago.
Take the family to a Canucks game with the Family Night Pack, presented by Cineplex and QMFM, with tickets starting $42 plus service fees. Each pack also includes 4 free movie passes, 2 theater popcorn vouchers, and a team store discount. Visit Canucks.com/Family Nights to book yours today.
Go and see Hunger Games. You can go and see Catching Fire. Sure you would.
Well, not till I've read the book.
Last time the Canucks scored 5 goals, it's the last time Henrik and Daniel scored in the same game.
I thought it was going to be who was president. Feels like a while, but it hasn't been that long.
No, a month ago.
They've put on a pretty good show here. Didn't get rattled by the early goal from Calvert. Just kept on sticking to the game plan. Here's Anisimov faking the shot. Keeping to the blast. That tipped wide of the goal. Early in the season, when John Tortorella was implementing the new style and systems, expectations. He talked about the need to get some results to have the players believe in what they were doing. And you get the sense they were kind of back to that here this week after some disappointing losses in which they played well and lost to Florida in which they didn't play altogether too well. But needing a result to just, again, believe in what they're trying to do here, what they're trying to accomplish. They'll get a result in this one. Just under 5 minutes to go. Vancouver leading 5-1. Higgins slides the puck up the middle. And they're going to blow it on the icing. Weiss was closing the gap. But they blow it down, and we'll check in with Murph.
Guys, this Sunday on Canucks TV features Canucks prospect Hunter Shinkaruk and his recent visit to Vancouver. The freshly signed Eddie Lack mic'd up, and a Movember update from inside the Canucks dressing room. Saturday, 8:30 and 11 o'clock on Sportsnet Pacific.
Now, what do you think? It's been a relatively easy night for Roberto Luongo in this one. Only 14 shots. Chicago tomorrow. Eddie's played his back-to-back games.
What do I think? I think we're going to come back with Luongo.
I do too.
And I'm usually wrong. But in terms of scripting this potential scenario to happen, the Canucks have done a good job of it.
And as you were saying just moments ago, results. You get a win. Roberto, very good after that first shot went in again.
Lucky a couple of times, but it's part of the game. Here's Letestu to Eriksson. Ahead for Atkinson, who backhands the puck in behind. Luongo's out to cut it off. And Hughes will take possession. Up the middle to Brad Richardson, who turns and flips one forward. Kassian trying to move in. Johansson's moved over and got a piece of it. Whistle is for icing, and they'll bring the face-off down into the Vancouver zone. Again, here's Murph.
Hey, Canucks fans, don't miss your chance to own a piece of Vancouver sports history. The Rocket Goes to the Rafters is a limited lithograph of 510 pieces, each hand-signed by Pavel Bure himself. Purchase this lithograph at thefanzoo.com.
Four numbers up there now. Face off in the Vancouver zone. Johansson wins it from Zach Kassian. Shooting with a blast. Blocked by Hansen, who chases after the puck and picks it up. Richardson busting the net as Hansen cuts in front, pulled down. There'll be a penalty to two. Oh, penalty shot. My goodness. That's liberal.
Yes. Okay.
Jannik Hansen's going to get a chance to go one-on-one on Sergei Bobrovsky. It'll be his second career penalty shot.
And Jannik Hansen wants his shield washed off after this, but he leans in. I don't think he's got a free pass to the net.
No.
But a 5-1 game. Let's entertain the people here.
I've always said I wish they would err on the side of awarding more penalty shots.
Now you've got it. Your wish has been granted.
Hansen is 0 for 1 in his career. Sergei Bobrovsky has stopped 1 of 4. And this is the first penalty shot of the year for the Canucks. They've had 3 against. Hansen trying to make it 6-1. Stopped by Bobrovsky. And he's now stopped his second in 5 attempts in his career.
Jannik Hansen tried to outweight Bobrovsky, slows right down Bobrovsky. A little gap there, but closes the arm in tight to the body. Hansen's trying to go under the catching glove. Bobrovsky squeezes it in.
That's the 4th penalty shot in the history of these two teams head-to-head, but the first for the Canucks. Columbus had never scored, going 0 for 3. Mike Sillinger, Rick Nash, and Maxime Mayorov stopped in order by Dan Cloutier, Alex Auld, and Corey Schneider. And there's your penalty shot history.
Yes.
Nikitin with a drive. Luongo kicked it out. Anisimov scores on the rebound. Open net for Artem Anisimov, and he makes it 5-2.
Jason Garrison didn't get position for the rebound, and the Canucks loose in their own zone. Garrison's there, but Anisimov gets in behind him and gets the stick free. Garrison's in good position right there, but you can see Anisimov sneak in behind him. And right there for the rebound.
So the Blue Jackets cut it to 3. As Anisimov counts his 6th of the season. An assist for Nikita Nikitin, who had the winning goal in overtime against Calgary, his first of the year. Under 3 minutes to go. As the Blue Jackets score their second goal on their 16th shot. Mike Sandarelli passing in his own zone to Ryan Stanton. And he relays to Kevin Bieksa, who looks up ice for Sandarelli. He deflects the puck through towards Bobrovsky, who will cover. And get a whistle with 2 minutes, 36 seconds to go. Canucks still in the catbird seat, John, but the lead is down to 3. Check out the game summary. Is brought to you by The Brick. Nobody beats The Brick for furniture, mattresses, appliances, and big screen TVs.
Henrik and Daniel have been very blunt about they had to get going, and they did in this one. The Canucks 5 straight goals. Alex Edler with a blast from the point, and the Canucks 33 shots on goal, and another 27 directed towards the net.
Here comes another one from Bieksa, and that's stopped by Bobrovsky, who hangs on with 2:29 remaining.
Canucks hockey on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Subway. Escape the cold with our new Sriracha Steak Melt. Subway. Eat fresh.
Sadine's a big part of this. They kill penalties too, and Ian and Tony talking to Murph about the penalty killing in this game. 5-2 game, you wouldn't think it was that important, but it was at crucial times in this one. Canucks killed off all 5 that they took.
Jeremy Welsh passes the puck to Kevin Bieksa. Weiss has it now, flipping it forward. Kassian giving chase. And the Blue Jackets come up with the puck and work it ahead to Atkinson, who chops it out. 2 minutes remaining. And then the Canucks can turn their attention to the Blackhawks. Atkinson flips the puck in. Chris Tanev goes back. Richardson takes his pass. Gets across center, checked by R.J. Umberger, and Fedor Tyutin passes the puck to Tim Eriksson. Back to Tyutin, ahead for Umberger. Deflects the puck in behind the Vancouver goal. Luongo leaves for Chris Tanev, who gets away from Johansson and starts out. Tanev for Hansen. That's broken up, and the puck played back into the Vancouver zone. Johansson to Como, centering pass, and trying to deflect that one was Umberger, but he couldn't find the angle. Hansen at center, pass for Kassian, and he was checked by Tyutin. Como dumps the puck back in, and Dan Hamhuis goes back with a pass to Garrison, who tips the puck around the other way for Jannik Hansen. Final minute of the game, and the Canucks are going to put the finishing touches on a game they currently lead 5-2. Dale Weiss couldn't get that one by Anisimov. He went down. Jeremy Welsh has the puck. Leaves for Weiss, who's in on the right wing. Poke check by Murray. Weiss plays the puck in behind. Welsh throws a hit there. Puts the puck in front. It comes back to Ryan Stanton. His slap shot scores! I think Jeremy Welsh may have tipped that one for his first career goal, and judging by the hug he's getting, I think I'm right.
Well, with the score the way it is, Jeremy Welsh getting some more ice time. Ryan Stanton does a nice job dragging that to the middle. And yes, it is. Jeremy Welsh back off the post and in. But what a nice tip in. Off the shaft of the stick, dragged it back, and it's off the post and in.
Stanton had the shot, but I think Welsh will get the goal. In any event, we'll tell you about a score and win winner. The 6th of the night, it's Megan Stewart of Surrey, who's won a $250 gift card from Visions Electronics, courtesy Safeway and Sunripe Juice. And that'll be a 3rd point for Ryan Stanton in this hockey game. Whistle in the Columbus zone, 20.5 seconds to go. Canucks now leading the hockey game 6-2. And lots to feel good about in this one with the Sedins breaking out, Alex Edler offensively, and there's Ryan Stanton, who gets a 3rd assist on the first career goal for Jeremy Welsh.
Real smart job dragging that so that he did get a shooting lane and then get it by the first guy.
Blue Jackets win a draw in the Vancouver zone. Puck played to the near side. Kassian is there. Stanton bumped by Calvert as he gets the puck out. Maybe one last shot by Nikitin. That's off his stick and wide, and the Canucks can celebrate the end of a 5-game winless streak. As Roberto Luongo and the Canucks knocked off the Columbus Blue Jackets 6-2. A couple of goals for the captain. 3 points from his brother, 3 from Ryan Stanton as well, and a first career goal for Jeremy Welsh.
Well, you look around the league and the teams that struggled over a short period, and the Canucks are one of them. Their star players have to score. Detroit, when they went in their little slump, their stars weren't scoring. Well, the Canucks, their stars came to play tonight.
Canucks can celebrate this one for a short while, but not too long, because having dispatched of goalie Bob, they now look ahead to tomorrow and the Blackhawks. But the Canucks with a good feeling for the first time in a while. A breakout offensively and a dominant performance after a tough beginning. 6-2 the final here at Rogers Arena. Connected is next.